Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. You know, in the murder of Sunshine Stewart, it's just a horrific crime. And what really bothers me about this is they've just today named by name the male who's 17 years old who did this murder. And in the arrest affidavit, his name is Devin Young. And he was actually staying in the Micmac campground. So the potential that he knew or had stalked Sunshine Stewart is very real. And what really bothers me is he's 17 years old, but he's going to be 18 apparently in September. And they are treating him with such kid gloves like this child. He's no child. He was old enough to murder this woman. He's old enough to be charged as an adult. This is so disturbing. And, you know, I keep hearing, oh, this young man, this child, he killed this 48-year-old woman, you know, and apparently he confessed to it. And I'm sure that the underlying crime, I'm not going to sort of conjecture right now, but I think it probably had something to do with a sexual assault. And we didn't know what the cause of death was for a couple of days. Now we do know that it was blunt trauma and asphyxia, which I predicted would be the cause of death before they even found Sunshine Stewart's body. So just absolutely horrific that this is occurring. And as I said, they are treating him with such kid gloves. This young man, he's an adult. He murdered somebody. He murdered someone 48. You know, in New York City, back in the 70s and the 80s, they had to drop, they had a status called juvenile offender. And certain crimes that someone less than 16, and 16 back then was the age of an adult. And because of politics, they raised that in New York City to less than 18. It used to be 16 and above, you were considered an adult. Except some crimes, you could be under 16, you could be 14 and 15 and be prosecuted as an adult. And that is what I think should happen here. There's no way that this guy should get away with this. So folks, hold on to your hats, hold on to your loved ones, hold on to your thoughts and feelings. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off the cuff zone, the police off the cuff zone.
There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
And now a word from our sponsor. BetOnline continues to be your number one source for all your sports betting action. And with baseball in full swing and football season around the corner, BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting. From Major League Baseball, UFC to tennis, and NFL futures, BetOnline remains your choice for sports wagering info. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Head to the website today and take advantage of their industry-leading VIP program with level-up bonuses and weekly cash boosts. BetOnline, the game starts here. So we're hearing, of course, today, the arrest was actually made Wednesday night. And the Maine State Police, the major case unit, they weren't giving out a hell of a lot of information. But today, the Maine Attorney General's office says it has brought a murder charge against the teenage suspect in the killing of Sunshine Sunny Stewart, the woman who was found dead 2 weeks ago after she went paddleboarding on Crawford Pond in Union. Court documents obtained by Maine's total coverage state the defendants in this case is 17-year-old Devin Young, who will turn 18 in September. So he's 2 months of being considered a man. Young, who was from Frankfort, Maine, was arrested without incident about 10:30 p.m. Wednesday in the Union. An official familiar with the investigation told ABC News that Young spends vacation time in the Crawford Pond area each summer with his family. On Friday, Young appeared virtually for his arraignment at the Knox County Courthouse in Rockland as he remains held at the Long Creek Youth Development Center in South Portland. Maine state police officials announced Thursday that the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner in Augusta confirmed the cause of Stewart's death was strangulation and blunt force trauma. I am floored with the elation and grief, said Rachel Blumenberg, a friend who was staying with Stewart when she went missing. Stewart, 48 years old, of Tennants Harbor, went out to Crawford Pond by herself the evening of July 2nd. When she did not return later, someone called police to report her missing. The Knox County Sheriff's Office and the Union Fire Department were the first agencies involved in the search effort, and Maine game wardens were eventually called in to assist. Stewart's body was found early on the morning of July 3rd near what is known as 100 Acre Island, which sits in the middle of the Crawford Pond and can only be accessed by boat. Based on the circumstances surrounding the discovery, game wardens requested assistance from the Maine State Police Major Crimes Unit. State Police announced on July 5th that the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner in Augusta had ruled Stewart's death a homicide. So that is what we have now, but yet they are basically doing a lot of sort of what I would consider pussyfooting around with this kid. You know, all of a sudden he's this young boy. He's 2 months from being a man, and he murdered this woman, this 48-year-old woman. So I find it really disdainful that they're referring to him as this young man, this boy.
Accused of killing Sunshine Stewart in Union 2 weeks ago, now officially charged with murder.
17-year-old Devin Young, seen here in a picture he posted last year on his Facebook page, made his first court appearance today. His name not redacted in court documents.
He will turn 18 in September. Bonnie Bishop reports tonight from his hometown.
The 17-year-old lives here in the rural town of Frankfort, but now he's hours away from home as he's awaiting his fate on a murder charge in Sunshine Stewart's homicide case. Making his first court appearance this morning, the juvenile suspect charged with murder. But people who live in and around his hometown say it's hard to take in.
To imagine he was a teenage boy, no, I couldn't even imagine that.
But will Young be tried as an adult? That would require action by a judge. If he is and is convicted, he could face up to life in prison. Officials say Stewart, 48 years old, died from strangulation and blunt force trauma. She was last seen paddleboarding on Crawford Pond in Union.
Knowing that you can't even go paddleboarding alone at dusk as a woman is terrifying.
We reached out to Young's attorney, who says he has no comment at this time. We also went to Young's home, but were asked to leave. Young is expected back in court in Rockland next month, and court documents tell us that he's expected to stay at Long Creek until then. In Frankfort, I'm Bonnie Bishop for Maine's Total Coverage.
And tonight we continue to dig deeper into who Devin Young is. Going through his Facebook page, he shared this picture, as we mentioned, in August of last year, posting from the Micmac campground, where he and family members reportedly frequently spend their summers, and where Sunshine Stewart was staying. He was still active on Facebook as recently as 5 days ago, more than a week after Stewart's death, responding to someone in a post saying he was great and asking how they were doing. He also lists having attended Hamden Academy, but not since 2023.
You can stay up to date on all things related to this case at our website, WMTW.com. There you can find a timeline of Sonny's disappearance and death and what else we know about Devin Young. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel, WMTW TV. There you can find all of our previous reporting on this case. We'll continue to provide updates on both platforms as soon as we get any new information.
You know, I just find it just so disturbing, because here you have this woman who in life was a superstar, you know, and not that that makes her life worth any more than someone who wasn't a superstar, but she apparently gave so much joy to everyone that knew her and knows her. And along comes this mope and I'll call him a mope. He's a 17-year-old. He's no kid. He's 17-year-old. He looks like he's a pretty big kid too, like 230, 240 pounds. And he obviously targeted her. He probably saw her in the Micmac campground. He targeted this poor woman, you know. And the police, the Maine State Police, major case unit, of course, they start asking around about him. And, you know, it probably wasn't advanced rocketry to solve this case, although I'm not putting them down. I think they did a fantastic job. He posted something on his Facebook, and it's not there any longer. I looked at his Facebook of Devin Young, how he was mentally ill. So the Maine State Police must have figured that out. And when they canvassed the Micmac campground, they must have asked the owner, who's staying here? And lo and behold, it probably fell right into their lap. And early on, he was probably number one suspect. Tyler Courts from the chat. What evidence connected him to the murder? Tyler, unknown. This is the first day that we are finding out his name. We don't know. We know that when they found Sunshine Stewart's body, they knew at the scene that this was a murder because they called the Maine State Police, the major case unit, to respond, to investigate this as a homicide. Now, what they found, well, she died from asphyxia, which is strangulation, and blunt force trauma. Did he maybe hit her with an oar? I don't know. So there were probably signs on the body. There were probably signs on the body that she didn't die of natural causes, let's put it that way. And so asphyxia, there is definitely signs of that. If someone dies of asphyxia, and then blunt force trauma, use your imagination. If someone was hit about the head with an object, a rock or an oar or something like that, there would be signs of that. So just horrific. And again, what makes me upset about this is it seems in our current situation in law enforcement across this country that there is such a presumption of innocence to the guilty and not to the victim whose life was taken from her at the age of 48. And everyone's, oh, he's a young man. Okay.
Within the last half hour, they've charged the suspect in the paddleboarder homicide in Union with murder. The suspect is a 17-year-old boy and faced a judge this morning in Rockland. We have a crew at the court and we'll have updates.
Do you notice that even this reporter called him a 17-year-old boy? Since when is a 17-year-old called a boy? Especially when he's charged with a murder. Is he a boy? Or is he's a young man, isn't he? 2 months from now, he's going to be 18. He's going to be a full man in 2 months. He's a man now, but they're calling him a boy.
As soon as we get them. That teen was arrested late Wednesday night and taken to Long Creek Youth Detention Center. Investigators have not yet released his name, but we do know he is from Maine and reportedly frequently vacationed in Union to visit family. Stewart was found dead 2 weeks ago after paddleboarding on Crawford Pond. The Office of the Chief Medical Examiner also revealing Stewart's cause of death was strangulation and blunt force trauma. The community, which has been in the dark for the last 2 weeks, finally has some answers.
The why, I don't know if we'll ever really understand why this happened and why this individual did this to Sunny. And that is really hard. But, just hopeful now that people, all of us, family and friends can kind of start taking those steps towards grieving in a normal way.
Suspect has now faced a judge in juvenile court. We're getting new expert insight.
It just, I just can't understand this. All right. Juvenile, 17. Are you kidding me? A juvenile in New York City used to be 13, 14, and 15. And all of a sudden, all these libs got a hold of that law and had it jacked up to just less than 18. All right. Because those ages are the ages that males commit the most crime. in those ages, between 13 and 18. So when we sort of give them a pass by calling them juveniles, how about once they commit a big boy crime, they're no longer juveniles? Once they commit a murder, once they commit a very serious crime, we're not going to call them juveniles anymore. How about that?
On when we might find out if he's being charged as an adult, Jacob Murphy spoke with a retired state Supreme Court judge about this case and the process.
Donald Alexander is a retired judge who served on the bench for more than 40 years. He says Maine's Attorney General will likely decide in the coming weeks whether to try the 17-year-old suspect as an adult, but there are multiple factors still to be determined.
I would expect something sometime next week. But again, there may be reasons to defer it beyond that, particularly if there's a competence or mental health issue.
According to Judge Alexander, it will be up to Maine's Attorney General to decide whether to file a petition for the suspect to be tried as an adult. That could happen within the next several weeks.
It depends what the issues are before the Attorney General. Are they competence? Are they mental health issues, which can be a little separate?
If the Attorney General goes forward with the petition, a judge will make the final decision at a special hearing, considering the sensitivity of the crime and the person's criminal history.
The ultimate thing has to be decided by the court. So a justice of the Superior Court or District Court, one of our trial judges, would decide whether the matter is tried as adult.
So there's more issues here than his age. I stated before he had on his Facebook page that he was mentally ill. Is that going to give you a pass too? Is that going to give you a bye because you have mental health issues? Are you unable to understand that hitting someone over the head with a blunt object is not okay? Are you unable to understand that strangling a woman that's 48 years old? Are you unable to understand that because you're mentally ill? Then there's a place for you. It's called prison. You know, this is like coddling criminals. And I find it outrageous, just absolutely outrageous. You know, first he's a young man. He's a young boy. No, he's a man now. He just did a big boy crime. He just did a murder and took this woman's life, right? And we don't know what else. And what was his motive? We don't know any of those things. We don't know, did he target her? Did he stalk her? I guarantee you, and I'll bet my life, and I predicted before this even came out that this was blunt trauma and asphyxia. I predicted that before they even came out with the cause of death. And I'm not patting myself on the back, but I just knew what type of crime this was. And I predicted it was a known too. Whether she knew him or just recognized him from their area, or he knew her and took a shine to her and targeted her and followed her out on that lake. Very scary, right? This is a young man, not a young boy. Let's go. This is ABC News with Michael Strahan.
The Maine paddleboarder found dead 2 weeks ago. Police say a 17-year-old is in custody, and our chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katersky, is in Union, Maine with more. Good morning, Aaron.
And good morning to you, Michael. One woman told us she's resting easier now that there has been an arrest in the case. This is the campground where Sunshine Stewart was last seen alive, and about a 10-minute walk down this path is the private pond where she went paddleboarding and where police say she was killed by a teenage boy.
This morning, a 17-year-old is in custody, accused of killing 48-year-old Sunshine Stewart. The arrest a relief for the small rustic community rattled by murder.
Everybody wants to know the whole story right now, and that's going to take a process, and we all need to be patient and let them continue that work.
Stewart was last seen paddleboarding on Crawford Pond. Sources say she was found strangled and bludgeoned to death on 100-acre island, her paddleboard located using a drone. The 17-year-old arrested for her murder was on vacation with his family.
How could this happen? And the fact that it's a 17-year-old suspect is just really, unbelievable.
The owner of the campground where Stewart had been staying, saying in a statement, she is 100% shocked. I wasn't expecting this to be a child, expecting it to be a stranger. It's
not a child. It is not a child. Stop saying it's a child, all right? Someone in the chat just said to me, Racer Girl, I'm sorry. And of course, you have your own opinion, Racer Girl. But we, as in you and everyone else except the cops, don't know if he's done this innocent until proven guilty. Remember, I remember, but you know something? As a cop, he confessed. To me, that says he did it. All right, and we'll go through court and we'll see. He'll get a fair trial. But he's 17. I'm sure they have evidence that probable cause to arrest him, probable cause of facts and circumstances that would allow a reasonable person to believe that a crime has been committed and the person arrested committed the crime. And then, as in this case, he confessed. No, Cinnamon Bear, he'll be 18 in September. He's 17 now. So he's 2 months away from being a full-grown man. So I know all this stuff, guys, and maybe I am guilty of prematurely stating someone's guilt, and he'll get a trial. Yes, Cinnamon Bear, he confessed, yes, according to Channel 8 here. So let me go back to this report here from Aaron Kitserski.
Adult. For 2 weeks, Maine State Police hunted for the killer, asking people in the area for DNA samples as part of the investigation. Stewart's friends clinging to their memories of the woman they knew as Sunny.
She was a light. People were drawn to her. She was charismatic. She was so fun and so funny. And she was a wonderful friend.
The 17-year-old is now being held at a juvenile detention center near Portland. George, people here are still baffled, not only that the alleged killer is so young, but that he summered among them. George?
Okay. You know, wasn't this, he's so young. What bullshit is that? I mean, these guys are they're jumping. Everyone's jumping on the bandwagon to be so young. In New York City, most of the crimes committed by 13 to 18-year-olds. So what? Are you so young? Stop it. These guys know better. They're just trying to sensationalize this, right? So definitely Wash Ashore Beauty in the chat. He's a disturbed young man. Yeah, and you know something? Here's a little hint that we got. They were asking males in the vicinity of the lake to voluntarily give up a DNA sample. What does that tell you, folks? That they must have gotten DNA on the body of Sunshine Stewart, which could either mean, well, you figure it out, that there was a sexual assault involved, right? And that the DNA will come back to the person that did this. And we all know now, but if they hadn't made this arrest, we know that there's something called investigative genetic genealogy, right? So they can build a family tree, but they didn't need to do that because they identified this guy, right? They identified him right pretty damn fast, right? And so, but they still, if they have DNA and they can, he's already confessed, but if they also compare his DNA to DNA that was lifted from the body of Sunshine Stewart, then that is so powerful. And hopefully they'll have that evidence.
This 2 weeks ago and never came home. It is a case that has sparked national attention and a lot of mystery as to what might have happened. And tonight we have new details. We are here in Union, not too far from Crawford Pond. Let's take it back 2 weeks, just before the 4th of July holiday weekend. The 48-year-old, who many call Sunny, had gone paddleboarding alone on the night of July 2nd. She was reported missing after she didn't come home. Her body found on Crawford Pond several hours later. That was around 1 a.m. Tonight, we've learned investigators arresting a 17-year-old in connection to Stewart's homicide. We also learned the cause of death, described as strangulation and blunt force trauma. An official familiar with the investigation telling ABC News that the suspect frequently visits the Crawford Pond area to spend summer vacations here with his family. We also know that juvenile taken into custody without incident and transported to Long Creek Youth Development Center in South Portland. Now, there has not been a lot of information released by investigators in this case up until today, and state police telling us that was intentional, saying releasing those details like the cause of death could have compromised the integrity of this investigation. But of course, for those who live in this area and friends of Sunny Stewart, it's been an uneasy couple of weeks. Someone we spoke with said the mood of the town has been described as shock and also concern. But of course, tonight we know state police arresting a juvenile, 17 years old. We have team coverage happening.
You know, folks, just one thing I want to mention. If they have DNA on the body, it very well could be under her fingernails, because Sunshine Stewart, no doubt, fought for her life. She was a fighter, you know? And so if she's got DNA under her fingernails, it probably belongs to this mope, you know? And that's going to nail his coffin shut. And, you know, a confession and DNA under her fingernails, that's all she wrote, you know? And I know someone in the chat is saying he deserves leniency. No, he does not. He deserves the full extent and the power of the law and the power of penalty if he is found guilty after a trial, if he even takes it to trial. If they have all this evidence, he may just plead guilty in the early stages.
Tonight, right here in Union, our own Jackie Mundry has been in town talking to folks here about the developments today, and also those who knew Sunny Stewart. Jackie, what have you learned? What have folks around here been telling you?
Scott, there's definitely a sense of relief tonight now that someone has been arrested in this case, the case of 48-year-old Sunny Stewart. Stewart's friends described her as someone who loved the outdoors and would give the shirt off her back and was always there to help others. It took 2 weeks to make an arrest in this case. And during that time, Maine State Police told people in the area to be vigilant, which caused some people to be concerned.
Well, everybody was concerned, you know. They still hadn't found anyone who did it, whatever. But it was a normal reaction, I'd say, because they all were very curious about what's going on.
Like I said, people were happy to see, you know, some sort of end or decision in this case. And, you know, after folks were told to stay vigilant, you know, there is a little bit of a sense of relief. A lot of people in town saying things like this doesn't happen here. So that's kind of, you know, the energy here in the community tonight. But Maine State Police do say that this is an ongoing investigation. I saw troopers here in town today, Scott. So, you know, we're still waiting to learn more, as you've been saying.
Okay, Jackie, thank you. And again, police arresting a teenager in the homicide investigation of Sunny Stewart. Our own Bonnie Bishop is live in the studio tonight. And Bonnie, you spoke with a former FBI agent who is familiar with cases like this. What did he have to tell you?
Well, Scott, he provided some good insight on dealing with a juvenile suspect in a case like this. But as you mentioned, state police tell us the suspect is now being held at Long Creek Youth Development Center. As you've also mentioned, his name has not been released. All we know at this point.
Well, it has been released. It's Devin Young. So this was before they released his name. His name was released. It's Devin Young. He's a male white, age 17. He'll be 18 in September. So he's not a kid. He's not a juvenile, really, in my mind. He's going to be 18 in September, but he'll be given the rights of a juvenile because he's not an adult in the eyes of the law right now.
Is that he is a 17-year-old boy. The state AG's office says they do not have any additional information that they can share with us at this time. Investigators also telling ABC News that he spends his summers on the pond with family. Because he is a juvenile, many may be wondering if he will be tried as an adult. I spoke with ABC News contributor and former FBI agent Brad Garrett, who thinks there's a real chance the suspect will be tried as an adult.
When you have somebody that's close to being legally an adult and they commit a horrendous homicide, then it logically may well make sense that he could get prosecuted as an adult.
State police have not announced any charges just yet, and here in Maine, a judge decides.
Well, that's also off. They've announced that he's being charged with murder, so that there's probably other charges once the evidence comes back. I don't know what the underlying felony is here. Like, why did he kill her? But what I'm thinking is, and I'm going to guess, this was probably going to be or was a sexual assault. What other reason would he have to just go out there and kill her for no reason? So that's what I am thinking of. That's my instincts. That's my 27-year NYPD career. That's what I'm telling you it probably is. So till we know that, and the state police, the Maine State Police did an outstanding job and keeping the lid on this and not telling the public, the press. It actually helped them. It helped them in this investigation.
If a juvenile suspect will be tried as an adult based on the crime's severity and the juvenile's criminal history. For Maine's Total Coverage, I'm Bonnie Bishop. Scott, back to you.
All right, Bonnie. Thank you. Back here live in Union, it was 2 weeks ago that Sunny Stewart took her paddleboard out on a pond a lot like this and never came home. Tonight, we know police arresting a teenage suspect in that homicide investigation. As you heard there, investigators saying it is very much an active and ongoing investigation at this time. Of course, we'll be working to uncover any new details and pass those along on air and online at WMTW.com.
So, again, that report was a little bit dated because we know now the perpetrator, he stayed at the Micmac campground with his family, apparently went there every year. His name is Devin Young. He's male, white. He's age 17. He did post some things on his Facebook page, which indicated this was allegedly in his Facebook page that he had some mental health issues. Now, I would imagine that the state police, the major case squad, wouldn't have even published his name. However, it was in the complaint against him when they drew up the complaint for murder against him. His name was on the complaint. Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff, real crime stories. If you like real crime, true crime from a police perspective, you're in the right place. And I just ask you hit the subscribe button. You hit the like button, you make comments, and you share us with your friends. And if you want to contribute to us financially, we have a Patreon with 4 different levels, and we also have a YouTube channel membership with 5 different levels, and you can become part of the Police Off the Cuff family on YouTube. This is, I'm going to play, this is Ashley Banfield. Everyone's on this case because it became a national case. Maybe all because it was really a whodunit. Like, no one expects to go out on a paddleboard on a lake in Maine and get murdered, right? Is that not unusual? You bet it's unusual, right? And then the fact that this wonderful woman was such an achiever, a microbiologist, a captain of a lobster ship, right? A builder, a bartender. She lived life to the fullest. And it seemed that everyone that spoke about her loved this woman, that she gave more in life than she took, And yet, it's amazing to me that people are worried about this perp that took her life. And I know he's innocent till proven guilty. But to tell you the truth, I'm more worried about Sunshine Stewart and the people that loved her than I am of this 17-year-old juvenile named Devin Young, who everyone seems to be the child they're so concerned with, that he beat this woman and strangled her. Everyone seems to be so concerned, and he confessed to it. This is Ashley Banfield.
That the body of Sunshine Stewart was discovered on an island in a pond in the small town of Union, Maine. Stewart was 48 years old and a Renaissance woman, at times in her life a boat captain, a contractor, and a marine biologist. She loved the outdoors, and hours before she was murdered, she set out on a paddleboard from her campground. And she was by herself. We brought you this story last week, and tonight we have an update in the way of an arrest. Late last night, the state police in Maine brought in a 17-year-old boy suspected of being connected to the murder of Sunny Stewart. And at the same time, they announced exactly how she died. She'd been both strangled and beaten. But because of the suspect's age, we don't know exactly what it is the boy is alleged to have done. Don't even know his name. Sam Patton is on the story. He's the managing editor at the website called The Maine Wire. He joins me live with the latest reporting. I feel really uncomfortable for the people in that community. What are the police telling people?
Thanks for having me, Ashley. Very little has come out about this case over the last 2 weeks. And what we learned this morning is that a suspect has been arrested. I think that's a relief to the community that he's a minor, that he's 17 years old, and the cause of death, which had been withheld up until now. Other than that, there are not a lot of facts that are coming out at this time. So it's people are still guessing as to who the actual individual is, though perhaps we'll find that out before too long after the Attorney General decides whether they're going to charge them as a minor or an adult.
So do we even know, Sam, if it's going to be a murder charge or what they're alleging this 17-year-old mystery boy is apparently did to Sonny?
We don't know what the charging is going to be, but it was clearly a homicide.
We know that he's been charged with murder. So we know that this has been updated. We don't know what the other charges are because they can just slap the murder charge on. And then if they learn more about the underlying felony through the toxicology, through the DNA underneath her fingernails, through the potentiality that they would automatically do a rape kit on this case. Was there biological fluids on her body? So all of those things. So right now, the charges against this boy, this 17-year-old boy / man, are murder.
And it was clearly an intentional killing based on everything that is known. So there was some speculation early on, was this an accident? But everything points to the fact that she was killed and that there was an attempt made to conceal her body. So clearly there was some form of not only intentionality, but guilt and trying to hide from the crime.
Sam, I've got 10 seconds left, but there's a report that this is a kid who was spending the summer with his family in the area of the pond. Do we know if that's true?
That is what we're hearing. Sonny was staying at a campground on the pond, which is the only access that's not a camp. So chances are that this individual may also have been staying at that campground with his family if they did not have a camp there themselves. He probably had seen her and possibly stalked her, eventually luring her to her death. But that is something that we're just speculating about at this time. Very few facts are known.
All allegations. Yep, all allegations till we know more. Sam, you'll have to come back. Thanks so much for this.
So here we have it. Apparently, he had been going there every year with his family. Is there a potential that he had seen Sunshine Stewart before, that he maybe targeted her, that he stalked her? Absolutely. And maybe she even knew him. I don't mean knew him, but recognized him from being at that same Micmac campground. So we had spoken early in this investigation, and I predicted everything correctly. I said it's someone known to her. And that remains to be seen. But it would seem there's a possibility that she knew this guy, right? So that it wasn't a stranger. At least she could look at him and say, oh, that's the guy staying at the same campground that I'm staying at, you know? So, and then, of course, the cause of death. Blunt force trauma and asphyxia. And this kid, from what I've seen, the picture I've seen on his Facebook, he looked like a huge kid, like about 6'2", about 240, 250 pounds. So even though Sunshine Stewart was known to be a physical specimen and in great shape and strong and would fight, she could have been overcome by the size of this guy, the size and the strength of this boy, this young boy / man who no one wants to call a man because of the stupidity of these juvenile laws now that have all been aged up. It's fine if you want to protect juveniles and raise the age, but make certain crimes disregard the age of the person that did it by making them what's called a juvenile offender and charge them as an adult. That's the answer to this, right? Doradella from the chat. I think he attacked her unexpectedly. Well, that's a very good chance, but something he had to get to that island. Like, did he attack her when she was right out on the water, or did he wait and surprise her on the land there? That's unknown to us. I would imagine the state police know this. I think they would know this now. But that doesn't mean, look, they're still putting this case together. They're still figuring it out. They're putting the evidence together so that they build a strong case against him. And so many things we don't know at this point. We just know a 48-year-old vibrant woman who was loved by many lost her life in a senseless attack by this young boy, this young boy. I find that so egregious to call him a young boy. To me, he's 17. He did an adult crime. He just graduated to being an adult. And to tell you the truth, in 2 months, he's slated to be 18 years old in September. He would be an official man. But of course, the law doesn't look at that. The law looks at the age of this young boy, this young man at the time of the crime. So this teen arrested for this grown-up crime, that'll be up to the state attorney general how he gets charged. And I would think there's a much better chance to be charged as an adult based on the fact of his age. I don't think the attorney general would have any problem elevating this to charging him as an adult. However, what I could see the attorney general balking at is not charging him as an adult because of his mental state. Apparently, this individual, according to his Facebook page, had mental health issues. So our elected officials, the attorney generals, and they really take, they include that as one of the reasons they wouldn't charge someone as an adult because of his mental health issues. And again, that's up to the state attorney general. But something, in my mind, Sunshine Stewart lost her life. I don't care what Devin Young's mental health history is. He took her life. At least he confessed to it, and he's been arrested for it, right? And of course, he's innocent till proven guilty, right? But he took Sunshine Stewart's life in this attack that made no sense whatsoever to us. This is from Court TV.
Court TV, I'm Ted Rowland's going to be with you on a Friday. We're following some new developments out of the state of Maine, where a 17-year-old boy has now been charged with one count of murder in the death of a paddleboarder who went missing earlier this month. Maine State Police arrested a 17-year-old male yesterday in connection to the alleged, on Wednesday actually, the alleged murder of 48-year-old Sunshine Stewart. Although no charges were, the charges weren't announced until today. And we still don't have a name, and we still don't know if he'll be charged as an adult. The information is...
Well, we do have his name. His name is Devin Young. So we don't know if he's going to be charged as an adult, but we know his name. It's Devin Young.
Is coming out slowly out of the state of Maine. Stewart's body was found earlier this month at a popular pond there. Her cause of death, strangulation, and blunt force trauma. The suspect has not been identified, and he was there allegedly with his family on summer vacation, and somehow they came across each other. Natasha Scruggs is still with us. She's in Kansas City, Missouri. This is one of those cases. It took a long time for this arrest, and it was a mystery.
You know something? It did not take a long time, Mr. News Reporter. 2 weeks is not a long time for a homicide investigation. I hate when these news reporters say that. They should try to investigate a homicide and decide what a long time is. They were saying that about Koberger because it took 6 weeks to arrest him. Oh, no, like, is this a cold case? Stop it. Stop it. Ridiculous how you even said that.
there, and then for the people living there, they were living in fear for a while. The beloved paddleboarder who was a part of the community ends up dead in the middle of nowhere. Let's start with the age of this individual who's now in custody. Safe to say at 17, they'll move him up and he'll be tried as an adult? Oh, I think you're muted.
She's muted.
I'm so sorry. Can you hear me now? Okay. Yes. So here in Missouri, 17 is considered a minor. There, 17 is considered a minor, but you can always do a certification hearing to certify them as an adult. And so that hearing is based on different factors, including the severity of the crime, you know, the maturity of the minor and things of that nature. And so right now, you know, obviously we don't have a lot of evidence. The only thing we know is she died of strangulation and blunt force trauma. But if they can prove, not beyond a reasonable doubt, but if they can prove a significant amount that he could have done this, then I could see a judge certifying him as an adult.
Yeah, and how, I guess a lot of it will depend on his story. If, has he
Again, this report is missing the story. He confessed. Okay, so let's just forget what he's saying right here. He confessed. He's a little bit behind the times.
What do they have against him and his background, his mental capacity, the rest of it? He's there with his family on vacation, and this stranger to him ends up dead, and they believe that he murdered her. It's as serious as it gets, is it not? And as they move forward here, his age is also going to be weighed with his background and the evidence. The evidence is the big part of what they have against this kid.
Yes, it's kind of, these certification hearings are a little bit like a mini trial. You're presenting a lot of stuff. I've done them myself. And when I used to do them as a defense attorney, I would get a doctor to come in and talk about, all of these factors, these mitigating factors to show that he would do well in staying in the juvenile. If the juvenile system can handle something like this and can rehabilitate a child like this. So it's a lot of moving parts, but they weigh heavily on the nature of the charge.
Yeah, and this is as serious as it gets, murder charges. We'll keep you updated as we get more information out of the state of Maine, but the breaking news today is the 17-year-old has been officially charged with murder in the case against that paddleboarder who was found dead.
I hate that he referred to her as the paddleboarder. Imagine, look at all this woman, Sunshine Stewart, has accomplished in her life, and she gets murdered, and she's known as the paddleboarder. She's a marine biologist. She was a lobster boat captain, right? She was a bartender in St. John's in the Caribbean, and she's a builder. She has skills. She has mad skills, as they would say, and people are referring to her as a paddleboarder. And, when I hear these people talking about a 17-year-old getting rehabilitated for murder, no, he's not getting rehabilitated. He needs to get punished, not rehabilitated. I don't know where that comes from. If this was your family member, if this was someone you loved, would you be talking rehabilitation? I don't think so. So to me, it's insulting when someone says that after a vibrant young woman, 48 years old, is murdered by blunt trauma and strangulation, which is what asphyxia is. And then someone's going to say, oh, he should be in a juvenile facility. He's a man in 2 months. September, he's 18. So I'm baffled by that. And something, I'm glad I can speak my mind. Something, I saw violent crime for 27 years on the NYPD. In my last 10 years, homicide. I saw more homicides than I would care to report. But when I hear people talking about he should be rehabilitated, how does that work? How does that work? Do we let him build little boats in prison? What do we do? Pepper Jack from the chat. Dude was a bully. Family was barred from the campground for his behavior, allowed back this year. Well, the campground obviously made a big mistake, Caller C, the lawyers and excuses will make him a victim of something before this is over. It will be, oh, poor boy. Well, it's Caller C. It's already happening. It's already happening. He's already a victim. They're calling him a boy. He's not a boy. He's a man, right? And he should be charged as an adult. Well, folks, I covered this pretty much from the beginning when it happened, and I even referred to her as the paddleboarder in my thumbnail here. So, but here's the updated one: teen arrested in the murder of Sunshine Stewart, and that's how we want to remember her, by her name, Sunshine Stewart. And let's hope that the Maine State Police, the Major Case Squad, has a really strong case against this guy. Cat 747 from the chat, too late for rehabilitation. Come on, he's 17, too late. Cat 747, I totally agree with you, Amy Lou from the chat, that's why the campground owner refers to him as a boy. Yeah, I guess so. Anyway, folks, I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. This is a really tragic case. As we get updates, I'll report again on this case. But until then, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. Have a great night, everyone, and God bless.
One episode just ain't enough.